Ian, and thank everybody for joining. Today we're going to talk about a couple of things that you guys may already have in place, some content portals. Most teams usually implement these portals as a way to distribute files to partners, teams, vendors, media contacts, anybody that needs to access those files quickly that might not know how to navigate the dam. This was really kind of a simple goal, make it easier for folks to access the approved assets that they needed without constantly having to request them. But we've seen that kind of evolve as time has moved on. Our organizations that we've seen are they're moving beyond just sharing out files and sending them on their way, and turning their portals into more of a structured experience with content that's evolving over time. We're trying to improve engagement, adoption, and overall performance in that arena. Today, we're going to explore a little bit about how that shift happens and what steps you guys in your organizations can take to transform your existing portals into more of a strategic content delivery system. To start out, we have a little bit of a poll because we'd like to see what you guys are having challenges with today. So, what is your biggest challenge with portals today? Do you find it as low engagement or usage? Do you find that your users are having a difficult time finding the right content or assets? Are you seeing that it's a lack of personalization for each of the different audiences that you have? Or are assets just being duplicated across many of your portals and maybe it's a little too much to handle? So I'll give you guys a couple of minutes, a couple seconds to fill out the poll, and then we'll read through some of the answers. All right. It's looking like, from what I'm seeing here, there's a lot of consistency. People are saying that it's hard to find the right content and assets, which is completely understandable. The close seconds would be low engagements and low usage, and the lack of personalization. And I understand that it can be hard, not only to find, but to make sure that your portals are being engaged with, mostly because we don't right now have a way to see that. So I want to go through two examples of portals. Why were they created in to begin with? They really solved an operational challenge. Before portals existed, assets were pretty much everywhere. Shared drives, email threads, personal folders, chats, and teams were spending more time responding to requests like, do you have the latest logo? Can you send me the newest product photos? Where can I find the approved images? Uh, these portals were created with a single destination where approved content could be accessed on demand. This reduced a little bit of the manual work for marketing teams and made sure that partners and internal teams could access these assets quickly. But after we kind of solved that problem, we didn't see much evolution. Um, Before we talk about where portals are going, it's worth talking about why they were created. I mean, we've seen them emerge as a way to centralize access, the back and forth of sending files through chats and then having them disappear into the black hole that is. Uh, it also gave us a controlled way to distribute assets externally and made sure that what was being shared was up to date. And that's worked pretty well until now. Uh, Most portals we see are just here's your files. We've dropped them in there and they never get updated. We're trying to turn that into a true content experience. And so that's the shift that we're going to explore today, how we're moving beyond simple access into something much more strategic for your organization. So for our first example, we have a structured brand portal, and this is where a lot of organizations start. It gives teams and partners a single centralized place to access approved content instead of chasing or wondering if something is up to date. Everything is organized, governed, and easy to find, and it's incredibly valuable. It reduces back and forth, protects your brand, and creates efficiency to distribute assets at scale. But we're seeing that organizations' needs are evolving, and it's not just about accessing the content anymore. It's more about how is this content experienced? What are our users seeing when they get there? Is it tailored and searchable by the different audiences who may be accessing this? Or does it actually drive engagement or action? What are people doing with this information after they leave? And so while these portals are a great foundation, many of our teams are building on top of that. Another example that we have here is a more structured brand forward portal experience. Instead of a collection of files, this is organized as more of a brand hub where everything from logos to color palettes and guidelines are laid out. You can see that the content is grouped in a way that makes sense for the end user, whether it's looking for the right logo, variations, checking the brand rules, or pulling approved assets for a specific campaign. And that's a pretty big shift because now users, instead of guessing what's correct or digging through folders, the portal is actually guiding them and showing them how to use and what to use and giving them confidence that what they're seeing is actually up to date. And it makes it much easier to scale. When you're supporting different teams, partners, regions, or whoever needs access to consistent brand materials, this is a good place to start. But we're starting to see people move beyond this and creating portals that are more a tool for driving engagement, consistency, and reducing risk, not only to the brand, but to the organization as a whole. So, as we move forward, is it time to upgrade your brand portal? We've seen that they're really, again, looking more like a SharePoint folder where everybody has dropped everything in there and let it be. Folders inside of folders, collections of assets with little context, explanation, or order. Users searching through directories, hoping to find what they need. When portals become difficult to navigate, people often revert to the same behaviors portals were meant to eliminate. They go back to emailing you guys and asking colleagues for files. So if you have any of these cases, the portal will technically work, but we have ways to deliver more value. So if you find that your navigation is complicated, you have deeper folder structures, no search context, dead ends, you may need some curated collections that surface this content and context, not just store it. If you have audiences that are differing across the board, one portal may have served one audience fine, but now you're serving several different audiences. Think agencies, partners, distributors, etc. The same portal serves none of them well. We've created more of a jack of all trades, yet a master of none. Everybody sees everything or nothing, and you spend time managing access manually instead of automatically. So you need something that lets you create a distinct, tailored view for each audience, pulling from your full underlying asset library, but making sure that those users are only seeing what they need to or are meant to for their specific use case. Third is if your usage rights or context gets lost. Downloading a file, that's the easy part. Using the file is the hard part, and making sure that your users, your partners, your vendors, anybody who may need access to these assets know both how, where, and when to use these assets or information. Uh, if they don't have that, they'll either end up using it wrong or coming back to ask, increasing the number of emails you'll get. And then lastly, adoption is unclear. You build this portal out, you send a link, and then nothing happens. There's no way to know if anybody's logging in, who's downloading what, or whether the right people have the access that they need. Without that data, you can't improve upon the portal. So you're going to need some engagement analytics to see what's working, who's active, and where you're losing folks. So that's where we've seen a little bit of evolution. So what we're moving from on the left-hand side is what many organizations are familiar with. And again, it is still incredibly value for specific use cases. The branded portals are a great way to securely share content, organize access, and give teams and partners a clean, controlled way to access what they need. But what we've started to see is that as content demands grew across channels, across more audiences, and required more personalization, teams needed something beyond just access. And that's where evolution on the right comes in. These new style portals are more like individual microsites for your brand. So instead of presenting just files, you're creating a fully curated experience. You can showcase campaigns, highlight key content, organize your brand guidelines or any kind of guidelines that you need, templates, messaging, anything that you might want to share with an audience as a whole. And you're sharing it in a way that's intuitive, engaging, and ensuring that your audience comes back again to visit your, I know this is an overused term, but your source of truth. This is where they're going to find out all of the info that they need. It's moving the experience from here's a folder to here's not only how to find, but also actually use this content. And that's really a big difference. You're building engagement and excitement around your brand and showcasing its value. What's really powerful is that you're not replacing the original portal concept. It's more building on top of that original building block. You still have a secure and structured foundation from the dam, but now you're laying on storytelling, personalization, and usability. So, depending on your use case, you may find that a traditional branded portal for quick access and distribution might be the way to go. Or you could step into a more advanced experience where you truly want to guide your users, elevate your brand, and activate your content. And so that's really where the shift is. It's sharing assets to creating experience and creating those experiences that drive how those assets are actually used. So, real quick, just wanted to show you kind of how our content experiences are built. We've updated our portals to make customizing your content much easier, allowing you to create not only engaging, but dare I say, energizing content showcases. Each portal can be tailored to become a living, breathing example of your brand, and each page within the experience portal can be custom built to fit the needs of that specific section or content. When your users are waiting to see what's new or what's refreshed within your organization, they have an easy to use and exciting way to do it. You're almost guaranteed to see increased usage and therefore increased brand compliance. Along with this, making day-to-day administration of your site easier and less time consuming will reduce the amount of times that your teams spend fielding repetitive emails and the questions that they get every single day and allow them to more focus on what they're supposed to be doing. And that's really a day one. So what I'd like to do real quick is switch over to give you an example of a live portal that we have. Let me switch over here. So we have our friends over at United Healthcare that have built a public-facing portal for any of their media partners or external vendors that may need to have information on how to be using their brand. So not only do they have their brand standards fully laid out and what to expect, but they also have specific information on how to use it, where to use it, what is it supposed to look like. And so in addition to saying, here is the U mark, it's the most important part of our brand, we also have how's it supposed to use? Which one am I supposed to use? Do I use a monogram or do I use the word mark? Is it locked up in a specific way? Is it vertical, horizontal? How do I use it if I'm a third party? Do I need to have it endorsed? Do I have an exception? What's the color? How can I use a black and white in limited specific scenarios? And what's really great is that if I am on this site and I need to share a specific section that a user has asked about, I am able to grab that individual anchor link and send a user directly to the information that they need. And if you are a user that has elevated access, you're able to log in to see further more assets, more information, more digital usage, things that you may not need to have visible to the public, but you might want to make sure that everybody who needs that information has access to. So let me switch back really quick to our presentation. And I want to talk about what makes a high performance portal. There's four core elements that we have here. Structure, which determines how easily users can discover your content. Branding, which ensures that the portal feels like an extension of your brand and your organization rather than just a page with some assets on it. Personalization, which is allowing different audiences to access the content that is most relevant to them and be driven to the content that they need quicker. And finally, analytics to provide visibility into how it's being used, who's looking at it, who's downloading it, and if your content is up to date and providing the information that it needs. Together, these pillars will turn portals into more powerful and dynamic content delivery systems. So talking about structure, instead of organizing content by internal campaigns or projects, we want to structure our portals around how users search for their content. So we do have the three C's of information architecture here. We want to make sure that our navigation is clean, clear, and concise and easy for users to find exactly what they need. So you might be able to structure your content around press releases, partner marketing kits, social media assets, and product materials. But what we really want to do to make the most impactful improvements is come up with an architecture that is strategic for all users. Many of your portals may mirror internal file structures with folders organized around your campaign or a specific product name, but external users don't typically search for information or assets this way. A creative user might need specialized copy of the logo. A partner might be looking for marketing kits. A media outlet may want brand photography, or a specifically regional team may need localized campaign assets. And so by structuring your portal's navigation in this clean, clear, and concise way, it will make it easier for your users to access the content that they need while skipping over content that may not be relevant to them. Next, we want to talk about branding. There we go. So branding is going to transform your portal from, again, a simple tool where assets are just displayed into more of a destination. What we can include in our branded elements is images, colors, typography, logos, all sorts of campaign imagery, specific landing sections for special use cases, and embedded brand guidelines to inform your user, here is your asset and here is how to use it. So when your portal reflects your brand identity through design, visuals, messaging, and tone of voice, it reinforces trust in the brand, professionalism, and your brand as a whole. It also provides context for users. Campaign landing sections, curated collections, and branded environments make it easier for users to understand what content they're accessing and how it should be used. This helps extend your brand consistency, allowing your brand users to embody and live the brand they are representing on a day-to-day basis. So personalizing content, many organizations serve multiple audiences through a single portal where every user sees every asset. And that can be very overwhelming for folks that just need to find something simple or are looking for something very specific. Different users require different content. Your different audiences could include a franchise owner, a regional team, a creative partner, or an external vendor. And personalization allows us to present the most relevant content to each of these audiences. A franchisee might see a localized marketing kit. Journalists may see press kits and photography. Internal teams could see campaign materials. The targeted experience dramatically improves usability and adoption, especially since those individual audiences can get to what they need faster with less clicks and less frustration. And then they can be guided to what they require if they do need direction. And our last pillar is, of course, analytics. Analytics is where your portal becomes a little bit magic, strategic magic, if you would. They're going to answer your key questions. Which assets are being downloaded the most often? Which ones are downloaded the least? What content is nobody looking at? And how can we drive more folks to it? Which portals generate the most engagement? What content do I need to refresh more frequently? What are people searching for? And is that going to tell us what we might need to add? So instead of simply distributing assets, organizations are able to gain insights on how content is read, accessed, used, download, and my personal favorite, what's being searched for. Teams can identify which assets deliver the most value, which content is underperforming, where users might be encountering a little bit of friction, which in turn will help guide future content production and portal optimization. They say that if you build it, they will come, but we believe that if you maintain it, refresh it, and use data to help curate it, they will come back. So that's really it. The strategic value of content experiences. When portals evolve beyond simple file libraries, they begin delivering real strategic value. Teams spend less time requesting assets, and the folks that they are requesting assets from don't have to respond to all of those emails all the time. Other teams get less burnout answering repetitive questions and sending assets that get lost in a pile of emails. Partners can access approved content quickly. Marketing teams gain insight into how their content performs. And most importantly, organizations ensure that the right content reaches the right audience at the right time, quickly and efficiently. So thank you. Yeah. All right. It looks like we've got some questions here at the end. One of them is, do you recommend structuring portals differently depending on the audience, like internal teams versus external partners or customers? Absolutely, because those two different use cases or user bases are going to need separate things. Internal teams may need something about like a local event kit. They're about to go out and do a pop-up at a farmer's market. They need to make sure that they have the right flyers, the right banners, etc. Your external partners or vendors, we have folks that work with signage vendors that need very, very technical drawings and specifications on what type of material to print this sign on. Your internal users are probably not going to need the exact diameter of the circle that's supposed to be printed. So by differentiating that content and having different landing pages for those vastly different audiences will allow us to structure that differently to make sure that they're seeing what they need and not what they don't. Uh, is this experience portal available for use now? Yes, Nicole. You can absolutely talk to your account manager and get a demo of what our new experience portals have to offer, and they'll run you through the whole thing. Question from Sarah, how do you balance making a portal really engaging without overcomplicating the experience for the end user? It's a really great question. There's a lot of ways to do that. One of them is, again, kind of personalizing what folks can see. We do have the ability to gatekeep content within the navigation based on the user who is accessing it. So a generic everyday user may see things that they need, like a regular logo or how to use it, whereas a creative user may have a little more deep driven content about exact pixel width and hex codes for colors, et cetera, et cetera. So for the folks that need all of the information, you can provide all of the access. Whereas for folks that just need the PowerPoint template, you can point them in the right direction. Let's see. When we only have one experience portal, but then we have different regional audiences, does it make sense adding all assets and audiences into that experience portal? It really depends on how you want to structure it. You have the ability to have as many home pages that you may need and set it up so that you can have a Northeast, Southeast, Midwest, and West Coast landing page for those specific regions. And then you could also uh, have your categories within the dam set up so that they show up on those regional pages so that those audiences will get exactly what they need. The experience portal is not limited based off of how many assets or how many pages you can put on it. It really depends on how you want to curate it for those users. All right. Well, it looks like that's the end of the questions for now. I wanted to thank you guys for joining me this morning or afternoon, depending on what time zone you guys are in. And please feel free to reach out to the folks that you work with at Media Valet if you have additional questions, want to see this in action, or need anything else. Ian, is there anything else we need to add at the end?
No, sir. Thank you so much, Fran, for jumping in. That was really good. I hope the audience learned a lot about experience portals. And yeah, well, we have a session now coming up with Brand Active in about 15 minutes. So hopefully folks can join in for that. But thank you so much, Fran, and thanks everybody for joining us. Take
Wonderful.
care.
Thank you guys.
Bye
We'll see you
bye.
soon.